The Secret Service did discuss it on Monday, revealing that it is unaware of any recording devices in the Oval Office. Spicer wouldn't comment on that new information, Elaine, saying only that the president will weigh in at some point in the future.
Well, Nancy, aside from questions about tapes and Sessions' recusal, is there anything else we should be looking out for at Tuesday's hearing?
Sure, I think it'll be very interesting to see what Sessions has to say when senators ask him what he did, if anything, when the FBI director came to him and said, please keep me out of one-on-one situations with the president. I don't find it appropriate. It's uncomfortable. According to Comey last week, the Attorney General essentially shrugged his shoulders and said, you know, what do you expect me to do? That's the impression that Comey says he got from the Attorney General when he went to him with that concern. So, you know, it'll be interesting to hear Sessions, if he's forthcoming, talk about what was going through his mind when Comey came to him, and when we now know that others, like Preet Bharara from New York, also said to him that he was uncomfortable with the president calling him, and that he thought it was inappropriate, and asked Sessions if he would make sure that the president didn't call him anymore either. And the real open question here, Elaine, is just how forthcoming Sessions is going to be. Will he try to say, in response to a number of these questions, that he can't get into it either because the information is sensitive or classified, or because it involves a conversation that he had with the president that he thinks should be confidential?
And Nancy, do you think, is there anything that Special Counsel Bob Mueller might be looking for from this hearing?
Sure. You know, Sessions, in a sense, is his boss. Sessions is the Attorney General, and Mueller is the special counsel within the Department of Justice, even though he has a great deal of latitude, and Sessions is supposed to stay completely out of his hair. And, you know, so he'll be looking for essentially the administration's side of the story. You heard Comey last week describe in great detail how he felt about the conversations that he had with the president. What does the Attorney General have to say about that? And what does the Attorney General have to say, if anything, about this question of whether or not there are recordings of the president's conversations in the Oval Office with Comey or with anyone else? You've now had the Secret Service weigh in, but there's still this big question mark about why, when the president dangled that a month ago, he hasn't been willing either to back it up with any evidence or withdraw it and say, you know, that was a bit of hyperbole, but I didn't really mean it. I haven't been recording my conversations.
Yeah, that is very much an open question right now. Well, Nancy, was the Attorney General's decision to testify in an open setting surprising to lawmakers on the Hill?
Sure, and they've had to really scramble because as of just a few days ago, not only was he not supposed to be testifying publicly before the Intelligence Committee, he was going to be testifying before an entirely different committee about the Justice Department's budget. Now he's sending his deputy, Rod Rosenstein, in his place. Rosenstein may get some uncomfortable questions himself. And then there was this question about whether Sessions would do it publicly or privately. And there seemed to be a few factors that weighed into his decision to do this publicly. First of all, there were a number of Democrats who were pushing for a public hearing, who argued that the public has a right to hear his answers to some of these questions, and they were surely going to make a big fuss if all of this happened behind closed doors. But, you know, Sessions himself has been on Capitol Hill for a long time. He was a senator here for years, and he knows how it looks when the Attorney General of the United States says, I'm not willing to testify publicly. I will only talk to you behind closed doors. It looks like you're hiding something, whether you are or not. So he's someone who's very comfortable in a hearing room, very comfortable knowing what he can say and what he can't. And so clearly he's decided that, you know, it may be a little trickier, but he'll go with the public hearing. And then if there are things that he feels he can't say, then he'll just tell the senators he'd rather talk about that in a closed session.
Well, it's interesting, Nancy. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer wouldn't rule out Sessions invoking executive privilege. That was during Monday's briefing that Sean Spicer said that. Do we know if anything's changed on that front?
Well, I don't think you'll hear Sessions use the words executive privilege, but I do think what you could expect to hear him say if he gets a question about something that he said to the president, something that the president said to him, or even, frankly, questions about Jim Comey's firing, he might say, I don't believe that that's something that I am at liberty to discuss. I believe that my conversations with the president are private and should remain that way because the president needs honest counsel from his cabinet, and he doesn't expect that we will then turn around and tell the public what we discussed with him. That's very similar to what you heard from the head of the National Security Agency and the Director of National Intelligence when they testified before the same committee last week. They were asked point blank several times whether the president had ever asked them to downplay the Russia investigation. We know from our reporting and from others that he did that, but they were unwilling to confirm it. It was very frustrating for the senators, and the reason they gave was because these are conversations that they had with the president that they feel should remain private. So I think you'll likely hear something along those lines from Sessions from time to time tomorrow as well.
All right, Nancy Cordes in Washington for us. Nancy, thank you.
You're welcome.